We have 18 different menus.
Wow.
And it's just insanity.
Oh my gosh.
This space, the kitchen itself is just over 6,000 square feet. It's not big. It's 365. We never, ever close. In 35 years, we've never missed a meal.
Woohoo!
Welcome to another episode of the Culinary 360 podcast. I'm Chef Robert.
I'm Chef Ryan.
And I'm Chef Luke. On today's episode, we're going to meet and chat with the current Chief Operations Officer at DC Central Kitchen, Chef Dusty Cooper. We're going to learn a lot about DC Central and how they operate and how they're one of the most successful nonprofits, it really seems like, in the world. We'll also get to learn a lot about Dusty's path and journey through the culinary world and really around the world to become the chef that she is now. So I'm selfishly looking forward to just reconnecting with Dusty, having known her for the past couple of years. So let's get right to it.
Nice. We should see how many times you can say world again.
World. How many times did I say it? Probably a bunch, huh? I sound like a tool.
No, it was fine.
That's
it
okay.
Was funny.
I'm a tool.
Takes one to know one. Am I right?
It does. Thank you so much for joining us for our little podcast here.
Thanks for having me.
So a little background for our listeners and everybody that's here. I met Dusty, we're we going on like 5 years ago now?
It's actually 6.
6, oh my gosh.
I just had my son and he is now 6.
All right, so 6 years ago, a group of chefs got invited to do, for lack of better terms, sort of like a consulting / innovation work for Hormel and a project that was sponsored by the CIA. A really cool program. They brought in chefs from across the country, various different facets. I was a corporate chain chef at the time, and I believe at the time were you at a university then, or you at a hospital?
I was at the University of California in Santa Barbara.
Ooh, pretty place.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it was a really cool experience. Our class, I don't know, it was like magnetic. Like all of us became kind of instant besties.
It was the bourbon.
The bourbon helps when you have to deal with people.
Or the cigar parties at the hot tub.
Yes.
Or all of the above.
With bourbon.
With bourbon. Uh-huh. Oh, we got in so much trouble. Oh my gosh. But no, it was a blast. We had a really good time. We see each other at conferences. Like I saw Dusty at NRA this past year. So that was super cool. It's always nice to connect. And so I'm really looking forward to connecting again.
Thanks for inviting me. I'm thrilled.
Yeah, we're thrilled to have you here.
So I know that you have a lot of background, and so you don't have to go through everything, but why don't you give us kind of a run through of how you got into the culinary world, some of your highlights and lowlights throughout that process. And then maybe let's land on kind of where you're at now and what your role is and what you do.
And again, thank you for having me. It's always great to cross paths with anyone from CEIP, particularly Luke. I think he and I managed to hit it off early on. And so it's always pleasant to interact.
Oh, that's nice.
So I'm from the Midwest.
Where in the Midwest?
Where I'm from a little town in Southwest Missouri.
Oh, okay.
A little town called Nevada, and not Nevada. Do not call it Nevada.
Nevada? Was it Nevada? Is that what you said? I'm pretty sure you said Nevada.
Yeah. I don't get ruffled by that anymore, but I used to partake in that. I'm like, what did you say? So I grew up on a farm. I was, the epitome of sort of being, I don't know, cultured to be a chef in a sense. If you wanted a tomato, you went out to the garden. If you wanted fish, you went down to the creek, like that kind of thing. And my family's still a bunch of cattle farmers.
Nice.
So, I can envision the bib overalls now. And it, just really casual sort of upbringing in that regard, but really focused on food. Like we worked hard and we ate hearty. And I didn't realize at the time I was learning through that, like what food was meant to taste like. And so that ended up serving me quite well. But I moved away the moment I could. I always say I graduated high school a semester early and I left the same day. And that's absolutely true. So it was like 3:00. I was out of school at 5:00. I was tail lights. I'm like, see ya. And I ended up moving to Texas and worked like random, like I worked in a bucket factory, you know, I did that kind of thing. And I was supposed to attend a college and then I didn't, and found myself working. I moved to Los Angeles randomly and ended up working in film. And
what a twist. That was such a twist to the story.
Yeah. I wasn't expecting that.
right.
Like-
I know. You're like, wait a minute, how?
Bucket factory to film.
Yeah.
I am guilty. My entire career is following a girl somewhere. And so I ended up like, oh, I'll move to LA. And so I did. I moved to Los Angeles, and my girlfriend at the time was working in film. And I was like, cool, I'll do that. And so I worked in film for a handful of years. I worked as a production assistant. I worked as a second assistant director, worked as a second, none of which I was qualified to do whatsoever. And I did that for a while, but I started doing wrap parties. And so the film or the show would finish and I would do the wrap party, and people were like, you're really good at this. I'm like, am I? I just like I like cooking. And so I had enough of that feedback that I started to really entertain the idea of doing it professionally, and looked at a few schools. But being in Los Angeles, I found in California, I actually had some incentive to stay in the state as a student, and I ended up going to California Culinary Academy in San Francisco.
Oh, yeah. I've got some friends who've gone there. Very nice place.
Yeah. I mean, at the time, it was fantastic, I thought.
Right.
In San Francisco, like there's just it's such a wonderful foodie town.
Yeah, that's a place to definitely experience a lot of stuff.
Oh gosh, hey, I live to tell about it.
Yeah.
Nice.
Awesome place.
If it doesn't kill you, it makes you stronger.
Exactly. And I'm not afraid of anything, so why not? After school, went back to Los Angeles. I worked with Ben Ford and Govan Armstrong at Chadwick. It was the first organic restaurant in Beverly Hills, which these days are a dime a dozen. But it was a big deal at the time.
Still there, yeah. That's cool.
Yeah, it was fun. We were doing cool stuff. Ended up going to Belize with Josiah Citron over in Santa Monica, which I think he still has 2 Michelin stars. So just, 56 dots of balsamic reduction kind of stuff, and then like this only has 54. And you're like, how can you tell?
Well, see, bring that in your mind really well. That for sure.
I bring it up often. I'm still scarred by that. Yeah. But it just, really fine dining, attention to detail, technique driven food and service that I was a part of, which was really cool. And a friend of mine from culinary school said, I want to do more. Do you want to go to pastry school with me? And I was like, sure. Yeah. Where are we going to go? And she's like, well, I wanted to go to Le Cordon Bleu in Paris. And I was like, oh, aim high. Okay. And so I said, sure, let's do it. And then she chickened out and didn't go.
Oh,
But I did.
nice.
Yeah.
So all by yourself, you're find yourself to Paris? Oh my gosh.
Backing up and going to Paris.
Well, it was supposed to be by myself and 2 other, apparently she had that conversation with a few people. So there were 3 of us that went. She did not go.
Did you speak French?
No, none.
Oh.
Still. No.
Oh, you got a set.
And if you know anything about that program, there's 3 classes, and the first 2 have a translator, and the third one, they're like, you better know French. So I just made friends with somebody who was fluent. I was like, what did they say? And so I struggled through it, but it just opened my eyes to food like I'd never thought I would understand or experience. Just such an amazing experience to this day that I think of fondly. But it was a time that was right after 9/11. And so we're telling everyone, we're either Canadian or apparently I look Alsatian. I didn't know that. But
Okay.
I'm like, oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Le Cordon Bleu, pastry, it was very, very cool. Getting to make those things and experience that. And if you speak very slowly and only about food, I do understand. Don't ask me to respond though, because that's not going to work.
That's about the extent of my Spanish.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I came back to the States. I ended up getting a job almost immediately. Again, everything is random, you'll find. In a small island
Of course.
off the coast of Belize.
Why not?
Right.
That's exactly what I was expecting.
Following that business plan.
It's just, it's when you throw the dart start and you're like, damn, how am I going to make that work?
I can't wait to see your childhood diary of all the plans that you had and fulfilled.
I can say that I've accomplished quite a few, but I will tell you, I don't tan. This is it. And so let me go live off the coast of a Central American country. So I've learned how to avoid the sun, but yeah, it was very cool. It was a tiny little island. It had at the time like 5 villas. Every menu was spec to the guests based on preferences. And, it's like, oh, we went salsa and there are no tomatoes. And you're like, oh God, okay, let me get creative. Or we're doing an avocado salsa today. And they're like, oh, brilliant. I'm like, yay, thank God. But just, yeah, stuff would come up on boats. Like guys would come up and they'd be, had been fishing and some cool stuff that just, how do you can't plan. You have to be just excited about the food so that you can sell it like what you have in your little cooler. Yeah.
It's like reactive, right?
Yes.
Make it happen out of what you got, which I mean, those are great chef skills, right? Like I think, in all of our careers, there's probably been a point where we've had to, really max out like our kind of thought potential on like, God, what can I do with this? Like, what do I have to do? Like,
what do I have to do exactly?
How many different ways can I use this one thing?
Your whole menu is a daily special.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're out doing a catering and you realize you forgot something. Oh,
yep.
That menu's out. Let's pivot and figure out what we're doing.
There was a lot of that, if I'm honest. And I ended up somehow becoming the executive chef there. I'd never worked anywhere really. And somehow they're like, oh, well, since you're here. So I ended up being the executive chef. And then before I left, I was the corporate executive chef, which was kind of crazy because we'd started to expand. And I did that for about a year, I guess. So I was there a total of like 3 and something years. And so I would travel from small island to small island with a group of architects and the owner and identify if that spot could become a resort and what the food service would look like. And again, 0 qualifications to do any of this.
Sounds awful. Just sounds so awful.
It got old. I'm not going to lie.
I could believe that.
You're like, I'm out of malaria medication. Let me go get some more of that. Yeah, there were less than ideal moments, but I ended up, so the corporate office was in Atlanta and I ended up saying, I'm out, I'm done. I need to be stateside for a while. And I ended up in Atlanta, went to Connecticut, went to Portland, Oregon, back to Atlanta, back to LA, just sort of ping ponged all over the place and whatever sounded cool and a challenge. And then I opened my own restaurant. My mom had called me and she was like, there's this restaurant for sale. I think you should look at it. And I was like, I don't really want to live near you. And she's like, I never see you. And I was like, I'm so sorry. I don't know what to tell you.
There's a reason.
No offense, Mom.
We've all agreed in our family, like visiting for short spans of time works perfectly. But I ended up buying a restaurant in her town and had a wildly successful 4 years that I owned it. Had a guy come in and wanted to buy it because he loved the food. And I was like, okay, cool. And so I sold it and bought another one, and then had like the exact opposite experience. I absolutely struggled. And so I've seen both sides of it. I've seen the just hitting it at the right time in the right spot with the right menu and the right team, and then attempting to duplicate that and none of it working. And it's been hugely helpful for me to understand and to be able to articulate that to up and coming chefs. Like, okay, here's some things to look out for.
Right. That learning process, right? There's a lot you can glean from just a downright failure, right? Like when everything just goes wrong, you're like, wow, how do we do this?
Yeah.
How do we not make this happen again?
Yeah. But you got to use it as a learning experience so that,
Oh, absolutely. Ironically, starting a position on the tail end of that second ownership, being the program director for a culinary school. So I was well greased to come in and be like, here's what you don't want to do.
Yeah.
But it was fun. I ended up realizing I love training people and teaching people. And it was just really, and that was in Baton Rouge. Again, just every new position I would make sure I moved at least like 7,000 miles away.
Uh-huh.
Fun times. And then I moved to Philadelphia. I got engaged, moved to Philadelphia, went back to being executive chef of a restaurant there. The building I was in was like 13 buildings put together. And so none of the floors were even. And I was working a lunch one day and came through and just hit like where the floors met the wrong way and slipped and fell and ended up having to have shoulder surgery.
Oh.
And so I couldn't cook.
Where's the contingency plan?
Oh my God. Like I was, when they told me, it's like you find out like what you're really made of in those moments. Like, okay, do I crumble into a ball, which I did for a minute. And then I determined, okay, well, I need to go admin. I have enough experience. I can still do culinary. Let me take that route. That's what led me to the University of California.
Mm-hmm.
So I ended up senior executive chef on campus. Never done college university or anything like that before. But again, food is food.
Mm-hmm.
And if you understand food and you understand demographics and how to read your client and who your customer is, and it was really cool. We did, it was 25,000 students on that campus. And so we did, had a wonderful participation rate for on-site food and then a robust catering department. It was really, really cool. And stayed there until right after my son was born. So that's when I met Luke and participated in CEIP and ended up going, trying to get back to the East Coast and landed in Baltimore with Johns Hopkins. So I worked for Johns Hopkins health system, supporting the 6 healthcare campuses, and really kind of nervous about that because I knew nothing about healthcare. And so I was the director of culinary operations and corporate chef for them for 4 years. I'll tell you though, it set me up to understand so many different facets of the culinary world and really primed me for the position I'm in now. So right now I'm the chief operating officer for DC Central Kitchen in DC. It was just honestly like the job of a lifetime for me. It's just really, really cool. I get to work with some amazing people that remind me of when I taught culinary school in Baton Rouge. We employ those who face employment barriers and train them and give them life skills and knife skills, as we say around here. And then on top of it, we're one of the primary organizations that feed the DC public schools.
Wow.
And so we have about 20% of DC public schools that we assist. And
I didn't realize they fed schools as well. That's a lot.
Yeah, we do that. We also have a program. I don't know how deep you want to get into that.
Bring it. Yeah.
We have all different types of social enterprises. We have 5 arms to it. The culinary job training, which is helping those through with the culinary training itself, and then possible employment, which we do tend to employ a number of our students. We have our healthy school foods. We have Healthy Corners, which is a program where we make and process fresh fruits and vegetables, and we place them into corner stores in the wards of DC where grocery stores aren't prevalent or those types of foods aren't available, and we sell them at cost. We don't mark them up so that they are affordable for those in need. We serve community meals to homeless shelters and senior centers. And then we have 3 cafes, and we do catering as well. We're affiliated with the ARC in Southeast and also MLK Library, which is really cool. That's where one of our cafes is.
Saving the world with food.
Yeah.
How many people do you think you feed a day throughout all of those different segments?
On a light day, we'll make about 16,000 meals a day.
Okay. Wow.
Goodness, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And a lot of that is then being made by these people who are learning their life skills.
Yeah, the CJT team.
So you're really setting them up to really get a good job when they're leaving. That's amazing.
Trying to, yeah. I mean, I've been here for a year, but the organization celebrated 35 years recently, just this year. So coming up on 36.
Awesome.
There have been countless individuals who are really responsible for all of the success. Robert Egger is the founder, our current CEO, Mike Curtin, just phenomenal work that they've done in the community and with the programs that we have. So it's just, even on a bad day, you have a great day, which is kind of cool.
That's super cool.
And so your staff must be pretty big to be able to output that much food.
You would think. we do a lot. It's kind of crazy. In fact, so we have in our schools, because we act in a sense like a contractor. So if we go to the school, it's our people in the school, because we're in the business of creating jobs. Food is just our element for that.
Right.
I think we have like 140-ish in the schools that we employ. In total, we have, I think it's like 318 or 320 employees. So we have about 60 people in our culinary operations department.
Okay.
So that's what's right behind you there?
That's what's behind me. Yeah. And it's very quiet. I don't know why. It's freaking me out a little bit. Where's everybody? So there's a meeting going on that I don't know about.
They're just respecting your podcast, and they're trying to stay away. And
apparently
it's a safety meeting.
Yeah. They're like, oh, she's busy. Let's go do this.
So with, since you're prepping so many meals and things like that, are you using a lot of, just like a super random question, but like mixers, food processors, slicers, and things like that, instead of a lot of knife work, like more kitchen equipment than you are being able to use, like, this is how you julienne an onion, but like you can show them on a food processor in a way.
Yeah, no.
So you're using all by hand and everything.
We do everything by hand. And we're actually, so I was recently at a conference in Chicago just a couple weeks ago to look at some equipment to purchase for that, because our volumes are enormous.
Right.
And like, for instance, we have sweet potato fries. Whoever menued sweet potato fries and then said, let's cut these 3,000 pounds of sweet potatoes by hand, should just not have made that decision.
Wow.
And so, but we cut everything by hand. It's insane.
That blows my mind. That blows my. I thought
Yeah.
I was waiting for a completely different answer of like, yeah, we use slicers and food processors.
Yeah.
But nope, never mind.
Oh my gosh.
So we've recently in the last few months, started cutting cucumbers with a Roboku.
Wow.
And I'm like, it's been here the whole time.
So you didn't even progress from knives to mandolins to a food processor. You just made the big leap.
Let's do it. Yeah. And I actually have I don't recall like what it's called, but there's a very large vegetable and fruit processing machine that we are purchasing that will do everything from all the cuts you just mentioned, a lot of dices. We do a lot of dices because we scoop foods for the kiddos. We will be bringing that in, and it's, we're jumping over even like the Roboku. Like this guy will last us, and we'll do all the hard vegetables too, because we do a lot of really dense vegetables like sweet potatoes. And as an example, like we were invited to participate at Halloween, which was the Halloween event at the White House.
Oh, cool.
Oh, I saw that. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it was awesome. I got to take my son there.
What was his costume?
Oh, of course. He's a 6, so he's all about Pokemon. So he was Ash Ketchum.
Okay. Yeah.
And there were little Pokemons everywhere. So he was like throwing balls at them. Like, no, don't actually throw things at them. Just pretend.
Oh, that's awesome.
But they had all these pumpkins, and they said, you're in the business of reclaiming food and receiving donations. And we said, yes. And they said, do you want all of our pumpkins? And I said, of course. And then the team's like, whoa, what are we doing with these? And so we got like, don't hold me to this, but I think it was like 6,000 pounds of pumpkins.
Jeez.
Ooh.
Wow.
We've been peeling and de-seeding a lot of pumpkins. So for roasted, we did pumpkin bread. We did all sorts of stuff.
Right. I would think, just with the nature of, the mission there at DC Central, I mean, and nothing against food processors, because obviously I think food processor can save time, increase consistency, and so forth. But it helps if you have kind of a foundation of understanding of like, all right, this is what these cuts are. This is like the amount of effort that goes into it. So, just teaching people, like you said, if you're teaching people these life skills and how to be professionals in the culinary field, I mean, it's really important that they know how to use a knife and what knife to use for what specific products and how to process various different things with just a knife. And then once they get that, then yeah, all right, let's throw in the food processors and mass production of things to make it a little bit easier. But
Yeah, it's kind of like the saying, you got to learn the rules before you can break the rules.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Once you start using like a food processor or something like that, you kind of forget. But then you're like, you go somewhere, like you go for a stage and they're like, can you julienne this onion? You're like, yeah, where's your food processor? Like, yeah, right.
Pretty much.
yeah,
I think that takes me back to when I was at Le Cordon Bleu in Paris. We had to do everything by hand. And the chef was always saying, you may have a KitchenAid one day, but then that KitchenAid breaks or you don't have one. You still need to be able to accomplish what you need to accomplish. And
Yeah.
I think that's probably a lesson I took too seriously, because everyone's like, but we can use technology. I'm like, yeah, you can, but you need to, same thing. You need to learn how to do it.
yeah.
And here it's almost the opposite. It's like we've got a little too much to really maintain that.
Mm-hmm.
So we do have now, we have robocoups, we have some various slicers. We certainly have processing equipment that we're moving towards.
Mm-hmm.
We're very fortunate to be in a new facility. This facility is just shy of 2 years old here in Buzzard Point, the southern tip of DC on the Anacostia. And so it's a really wonderful location. But prior to this organization was in the basement of a men's shelter.
Wow.
So it was both space challenged and, challenged in integrating that technology, if you will, for methods in which to process. And that's not the case anymore. We're very fortunate to have amazing donors and contributors and supporters, and so we are upgrading as we speak to be able to process more and do more with equipment, because obviously
cool.
it saves a lot of time and it brings consistency, which is something I'd say we have an opportunity to improve upon.
Yeah, and your need is probably just constantly increasing too, right? I mean the need for your organization to provide these meals and services and trainings and all that, like, I mean, that's the world we live in, right? So it just keeps getting more need. There's more need coming.
Absolutely. We have a line at the door, if I'm honest. Just, can you take us on? We have this many schools, or here's a senior center that has 9 locations. Or just, we also do a program through a food delivery service for our seniors. And we started at, say, like 90 seniors a day. And now, if I'm not mistaken, we're like at 168. And we have the
Dang.
potential to take that tenfold.
It's awesome.
It's capacity. We're in this new facility, but the kitchen needs to be able to function at a high capacity. And to do that, as you know, like, you've got to have a plan with the processing and then the cooking and then the cooling and then the packaging and all those sorts of things. But my anticipation is within a year, we'll probably double our production.
That's amazing.
Dusty, I'm in Phoenix, and we've got a really great nonprofit down in Tucson. Nowhere near the volume and the size of what you're telling us about. They have a culinary program. You actually have to apply for it. They've got a wait list for it. And they've got very strict rules. You have to show up. You have to, again, the life skills that you got to have to keep a job. And they do 1,200 meals a day. Some meals are served right there on property. People line up and they grab their meal and walk away. Some are delivered to Meals on Wheels and people who are shut in. And then, they're delivering to other parts of of poorer neighborhoods where they've got drop-off zones for people to pick up. So where do you see, you're leading this? What's your vision for the future?
That's a great question. Interestingly, we have, so the founder, Robert Egger, he's not so far from you. He's in New Mexico, if I'm not mistaken. He really laid the groundwork for the growth of the organization to kind of just go any which way, because there's always going to be the need, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
But we found that we weren't going to solve hunger by giving people food. So solving hunger is really educating and providing those life skills. And the CJT, or the culinary job training program that we have here, it is really focusing on the life skills. And then, like I mentioned, the knife skills. The current goal is to graduate 200 graduates a year.
Wow.
through CJT. And my understanding is that we are pretty darn close to achieving that, or we will soon. We want to increase those numbers. We have more than that as far as interest goes. I don't think we'll ever lose sight of the fact that we are not interested in growing if we lose the quality training that we're trying to provide.
That's great.
Numbers are
Yeah.
great, but we're more interested in maintaining the integrity of the program. We're actually looking at our curriculum. Since I used to teach and having the background as a chef, it's a good collaboration. We've had just some really cool conversations of how to integrate our mission and some of the culinary needs that will benefit our student graduates. So we're sort of at that revisit stage. But my guess is that we will continue to provide as much opportunity to the community as we can. And I wouldn't be surprised in the least if those numbers continue to grow.
I think that's really cool how you guys are really starting to you really just want to focus on, if we're not training right and we're growing our numbers, then we're not doing anybody well.
Yeah.
They're just going to go out and fail and not do a good job and just come back to you and bite you in the butt.
Absolutely. But at the same time, we answer to ourselves in a sense, like we answer to our community. But I have to say, if any time that's brought up, there's never pushback to go, oh, but the numbers. No one in the organization says it. They go, oh, absolutely.
Cool.
And it's just the integrity is, I've not seen it before. And so it's intoxicating in a sense, because you're like, cool.
Yeah.
And, Mike, the CEO, I will bring him the most harebrained, crazy idea. And he just sits there and he goes, he does this. And then he goes, yes. And I'm like, I'm sorry, what? And he was like, yes, like that sounds amazing. And then he's like, now go do it. I'm like, shit, now I gotta go do it.
Now I gotta figure this out.
Right. But just the support.
That sounds like your life mission is, getting yourself in trouble.
Yeah, right.
Absolutely. Tattooed across my back. But it's very cool. It's really cool to be able to come in and just say, have we thought about this? And someone going, yes, but it didn't work. Let's try it again. Or no, we haven't thought of that. And just to have that collaboration with the team and everybody ready to just jump in and try. It's awesome.
I have a question about the menu and food that you're doing, because you're doing so many different types of things. Are you doing different menus for the schools compared to the catering menus that you're doing? And like, how different are the menus? How often are you switching everything around?
So you will appreciate this, because I can say this to just anybody on the street and they're like, I don't understand. We have 18 different menus.
Wow.
Oh my God.
And it's just insanity.
Yeah.
And when they came to me, I was like, how many menus do we have? And they told me, and I think I cried a little bit. I was like, okay, so what do we have to do to get that down to like 4?
Right.
But we have the kiddos, and it's certain, by age, and some of the differences could just be portion size. Then we also have our senior meals, which can reflect the same as far as the school menus, but we often will find that those portions too may need adjusted, and we're actually hoping to do some diet friendly meals. So if they have salt reductions or so heart healthy or diabetic friendly or whatever it might be, that will be our future. We also have our community meals, which historically with the organization was repurposed donated food, which we get a ton of. We have large organizations like this food's never been served. It's just they have too much in their warehouse or they overproduce. We get a ton of stuff. We got 20,000 pounds of salmon one time. Like, if you can imagine.
Oh my gosh.
And you're like, what am I going to do? Like salmon for breakfast. And it was everywhere. But the differences in the menus, the schools are dictated by USDA standards. And so we have a lot of guidelines for that. The community meals, we do tend to try to repurpose, but being in this new facility, it's been more about copying and pasting what we do in schools. We've actually come to find that doesn't work for us. We want to go back to trying to use donated product and realigning with our mission, which I'm super excited about, because there's a ton of interest in donating product. And then the catering menu, completely different. The retail menu, completely different.
Yeah.
But those school meals, those change what we call quarterly, but for the school year, there's 3 quarters. So we'll do a 1-month cycle and then repeat it 3 times and then switch out to a different quarter. And it's a lot. It's a lot. I sit in these menu meetings and I'm like, whoa.
Are you doing breakfast and lunch too?
We do breakfast, we do lunch, we do snack, we do supper.
Wow.
And we do summer meals.
Wow.
Jeez.
And and now it's hypothermia season. So we're doing hypo meals all of a sudden as well because it's like 37 degrees at night.
That's crazy.
You should come by sometime and see the craziness.
I want to see. I was just going to be like, what does the kitchen look like? Like how many ovens and refrigerators and prep tables and everything you have in there?
It would blow your mind how small we are.
Dang.
This space, the kitchen itself is just over 6,000 square feet. It's not big, not considering the volume that we're putting out. We're about to take on, there's 11,000 square feet through the wall. So we'll have the entire bottom half of the block of this building that we're in. We'll take that on soon. And that'll give me, I think, another 4,000 square feet of both refrigeration and production space.
Nice.
So in
Okay, well.
total, I'm going to have, I don't know, just around 7,000 square feet of production. But what we struggle with is the cooler space. We do a ton of food that goes in and out. I've got 30 something vehicles that deliver to schools every day. And so we have a whole fleet of that. Like it's constant. It's 365. We never, ever close. In 35 years, we've never missed a meal. So
Wow.
That's crazy.
it's insanity. And like I said, it's just a lot of tables. You look at it and you're like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Because it's all by hand. So it's all
Uh-huh.
tables for us to just choppy chop.
Is the food when it's leaving your facility, is it chilled or is it hot?
All of the above.
Okay. Woohoo!
We do a combination of things. So we will send out food that's ready to be cooked and somewhat processed, some food that's been partially cooked and needs to be finished,
Okay.
some food that's hot and ready to serve. And then we also have the same variation of all of that, but cold,
Okay.
meaning it's served cold. So we have both hot preparations and cold preparations, and hence the 18 menus. So we're looking at that.
Yeah.
Because it's
Yeah.
a lot. And we've grown, organically over time. We're like, yeah, we can do that. Yeah, we can do that. And now we're taking a step back going, holy crap, why did we say yes to that?
Yeah. Right.
But the need is there. That's the thing. Like, how do you say no? We say yes. Just today, I witnessed, they're like, well, can we get 3 more of these meals because this person's going to be here and they just had surgery? And you're like, of course. And so
Yeah.
we say yes because we say yes.
Yeah.
And we will always say yes, but it's a lot.
Yeah.
Are you using a lot of convectional ovens still? Convection ovens or combi ovens to reheat stuff up?
We have a combination. I want to say there are 5, don't hold me to this, 5 double sets of convection. And I think I have 2 roll-in combis right now. We're talking about going to a full line of combis so that we can do the roll-in racks and remove the need to go pan by pan,
Right.
just to speed things up a little bit. We also have, we have 4 steamers. We have a rotating oven. We have 200-gallon steam kettles. We have 3 tilts. We have a gigantic pressure cooker that you could put, like, you could have a hot tub party,
Sweet.
and a cook chill.
Do you have roll-in blast chillers then too for some of that production? And are they standalone or is it like more like a walk-in blast chiller?
Yeah, we have 2 of the walk-in style
Okay.
that aren't nearly big enough for us. We tend to do a lot
Yeah.
of things in the coolers, and we're addressing that so that, because we'll pull in 12 carts that suddenly need to be chilled, and so it's just a lot of space. That'll be in the new space that we'll add that.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have 3 walk-ins and a walk-in freezer. So it's the volume, and it's all at once, right?
Right.
And so we're working on staggering it a little bit so that we can be a little more productive with just space.
I can imagine that there's, other programs either along the East Coast or neighboring states, or even really across the country, that probably look to you guys for, I don't know, advice, or maybe, do you guys ever like host any other groups in to kind of learn and teach them how you guys do what you do?
We do, actually. It's one of those things where, like, as a chef, you're like, that you could ask for a recipe and you're like, sorry, yeah,
Yeah.
must be nice to wish that you would get that. We are an open book. Alex Moore, he is our chief development officer, he has written a book, literally, that just it chronicles the 35 years that we've been here, everything we've done, the why, the how.
Uh-huh.
We also will host groups, particularly here at the Klein Center for Jobs and Justice, that we're our new location. We will have folks in. We will answer any question. We don't charge to share our knowledge. We will have people through our kitchen taking a look at things, sitting in on CJT. And certainly anytime we can share what we're doing, we understand that that is our way of giving back. We haven't solved hunger in 35 years. It is far greater than we will ever be able to solve on our own. And so spreading the word is our best opportunity to contribute.
Well, I think you're doing an amazing job so far.
Yeah.
Aw,
Yeah.
thanks.
Absolutely.
It sounds amazing. I've been blown away by this whole conversation.
I've been here a year. I can take absolutely zero credit. The group that is here and has been here prior to me, my predecessor, Andy Fink, he was here for 12 years. I mean, he's just, I can't even imagine everything that he's seen. In particular, like I have this Rolls Royce of a facility, right? I mean, he was in the
Right.
basement.
He was working in the basement.
As was the rest of the team. Yeah. Can you imagine? But thank you so much, because it's, we really are all excited by the mission, excited to do what we can to help our community. And this is just like soul, it's soul work for it. I don't know. I really enjoy it.
Yeah.
Yeah. We, one of our factories that we represent is in Baltimore. And I think that the next time any of us end up in Baltimore, we're going to need to take an extra day and come up and see you.
Oh yeah.
Please,
Absolutely.
anytime.
Yeah.
That would be amazing. We do tours. I think we've been here almost 2 years. We've probably done like 500 tours. I'm not even kidding.
Oh my
We have
gosh.
people through constantly.
Yeah. Hand Ryan a peeler and a knife and have him start going at those sweet
Yeah.
potatoes.
There we go.
Why don't you do it, Robert?
Well, I say maybe all three of us
He's
are
like,
there at the
"Wait."
same time, and let's see who gets through them
Let's
faster.
see. Yeah. Talk about delegation here.
I would like to wear a cut glove, though. Thank you.
We can call it our volunteers. We have some days we'll have like over 100 volunteers each day.
Wow. That's crazy.
And so we have a ton of volunteers. Yeah. Little kids, like 12 and up, we'll have them. We have these little plastic knives so they don't hurt themselves. And they are phenomenal. Like our community, really, they show up. It's awesome.
That's cool. That 2 weeks ago, the Arizona SNA had a charity event. There's a nonprofit over in Chandler, and I think we had probably about 20 people from the SNA, and then there was like another 80 people there, and we packaged something like 3,000 meals that are getting sent not only around the U.S. but around the world. And they do that every single day and every single night. They just have groups coming in. So I think that's just amazing that you're doing something similar to that and taking advantage of the community to help out and help solve some problems.
It's surprising. Well, not now, but at the time, the numbers of people that we have participate, but not everyone can contribute financially, but they can contribute their time. And we have some people, I see the same woman, I think like 2 days a week, if I'm not mistaken. She just likes to come in and chop things. And so she'll come in, but we have team building groups. We have children's groups in the local area. We have a lot of schools that require hours of volunteering, and so we'll see a lot of buses pull up and just all these kids that are getting their hours, and then they have a blast, which is great, and they continue to come back. We've got families who came here as a kid with their parents and now bring their own kids. It's actually really cool. So we couldn't do it without the volunteers, no question.
Well, we've been asking you a lot of things. Anything you want to know about us?
Yeah, right.
I would be really interested. What are your thoughts on culinary school? Because we bypass culinary school here. This is knife skills, not necessarily school. But I mean, I know in my day when I was coming up, there was no better way to get your foot in the door. But what are your thoughts on that? Because I'm actually I don't know, I teeter some days. I'm like, there's other ways for sure.
I think I'm the only one here who didn't go to culinary school, right?
Yeah.
Robert, you went to culinary school. Yeah.
Yeah, but I went to a trade school, I guess it probably, the way you went through it is probably how you form your opinion about this, because, I didn't have the opportunity to go to CIA. I had an opportunity to go to a trade school, and then I got out and I worked for cheap, and I would volunteer or stage whatever I could to learn stuff. That's the way it worked for me. I know that one of the biggest things you get out of CIA is that network, because they got you set up with everybody who's come out of the school, so you're going to get placed somewhere good. It probably gets you there faster, but it worked for me.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, I think like any college, like whether it's culinary school or any university for that matter, school's not for everybody. Like I wasn't sure about school at first, and then it was kind of like, all right, well, I mean, if I'm going to do it, I want to go all in, and I want to do like the best that I possibly can and set myself up in that way. So I'm a big fan of the CIA. I think yes, Robert's right. Like there's a network there. There's uh, all the chefs that they have there. The resources that you can kind of reach back into even after you graduate. Like even now for me, like I still utilize contacts and information from the CIA to help me along. But I mean, it's not for everybody, and I think sometimes, especially in the culinary field, hands-on experience really, I mean, you can, you can learn really, really quickly if you are just like there doing it, right? And you're watching somebody else. And I mean, I think all of us are probably very visual learners, doing types of learners. You put the knife in their hand, you make them do it, they fail, but then they finally get it right. And then they start getting it right more often. And then finally they're like, all right, this is how I do it. This is just me now. I don't know. I'm a fan of the trade schools. I'm a fan of really, any of these paths where it really forces you to get some hands-on experience. And I will say, I had a interesting experience. It was awesome in my externship, but when I walked in the door, chef and ownership were just like, "All right, well, you may be the last one that ever comes from a culinary school." It wasn't just the CIA; it was just any school for that matter. They were like, "We're kind of fed up with you guys walking in here thinking you know everything and have an attitude." And I was like, "Well, I mean, you guys don't know me yet, but thank you for the opportunity." And I'd like to think that I proved them wrong, and I didn't show up with all sorts of attitude, and I worked really hard.
Yeah, I think when I was teaching back in the day, I would always say in orientation, you are not a chef just because you go through this program.
Mm-hmm.
There are other ways to get your training, and it's really up to you. And I would always implore them to make themselves the most valuable person to whoever they work for. How can you be more valuable? Is it coming on time? Is it understanding your task? Is it doing the repetitive motions of the job as often as possible, volunteering for those things, making sure that you're improving every day? Like, how are you going to be valuable to me?
Mm-hmm.
And certainly not required to go through culinary school. Like I mentioned, I have a background going to culinary school, but I see people who just have natural ability or interest, quite honestly. And there's so many opportunities with the social media and the internet, which I always feel like I'm so old when I say that, because it wasn't
It didn't
around.
exist. Yeah. I know.
Right.
Or the stages, right? Like
Oh,
we
yeah.
talked about this yesterday, right, Robert? Like,
Yeah.
Going and doing a stage somewhere to learn. Like that was
Right.
it was really common. It was something we talked about, when I was first entering the industry. You wanted to go learn something, you would, try to set up a stage, and hopefully you got paid while you did it. Sometimes you didn't, and you just went there, and the payment was the knowledge that you learned and received.
Absolutely.
I always wish that I did go to like a 6-month program for culinary, just like when I was cooking still, and it was like a night class or something like that, just to like really make a relationship with people that I'm not working with, and also just really learning the basics of like how to cook basic things well. And
Mhm.
that was kind of like the one thing that I always was like, I wish I could have done that. Not just because it would give me the chef title or thinking that way, it was because I wanted to cook better myself.
Mhm.
The biggest struggle, I think, when I was in restaurants is that I stuck at the restaurant for so long. And it was because I was new to cooking. I started in high school and they were just like, we like you. Do you want to do this now? Do you want to do this now? And I was like, okay. So it was hard to be able to go like, okay, when do I take the time, number one, to like really learn new cooking when I have all this stuff that's basic that I have to do now, to where it's like, okay, I'll learn how to cook at home. And then I'm making a line cook wage where I'm like, cool, I'll get a peanut butter and jelly tonight and eat that. And then it was when I really started hiring people, and then I would hire people, and I would hire people from culinary school, or I would hire people that did have a good cooking background. And then it was me being like, what are you doing right there? Oh, I'm sauteing this. And I'm like, cool, you show me how to do that? Like, you're the chef, don't you know? I'm like, yeah, just show me how to do it though. Like, and then that's where I was kind of learning how to do that type of stuff and growing as a chef as well.
Yeah.
You have to understand being a chef isn't being able to do like the most perfect poached salmon. You have to control a whole kitchen and have them run in sync. And you have to pick personalities to work next to each other so that kitchen does run in sync.
Mhm.
Like, it's a whole growing atmosphere of like training, growing people underneath you, and then learning food at the same time.
Absolutely. I agree with that entirely. I think I mentioned like I was doing jobs that I had absolutely no qualifications to do, but I had interest in it and I was willing to try. And I think that's often half the battle is just you got to get out there, you put yourself out there and try. And like you mentioned, chefs are inherently, I think most of us are really great teachers. And it's kind of all we do all day long. Let me show you this. Let me show you this. And then you come back and you're like,
Mhm.
okay, let me show you again. And having that patience, which I know some of my early career chefs didn't have that patience piece, but the lessons were still there. And I skipped over. I went from cook to chef, like which was ridiculous. I didn't know how to do any of that stuff in between. I had to wing it and just be like, "Well, of course I know." And I'm like, "How do you do
Yeah.
that?" Exactly like you. It's, I was too I pushed myself, I think, a little too hard to achieve a title. And I think that's where the culinary schools have gotten themselves in trouble in the past is you can be a chef when you graduate. There is so much more to it.
Right.
And understanding that and being okay with that. It's okay to be a cook for a while. It's okay to, to be a tournant, to graduate to sous chef and,
Mhm.
do your lunch services, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Right.
I think that's the cool thing now is I think it's allowed more so today to take your time and to do it right. But I don't know, it's certainly a different time for sure.
So, Dusty, you've lived a lot of places. Two-part question. What was your favorite place to live in and why? And then where did you feel you had the best food? And maybe even if it's just one item, tell us what that is, please.
Baton Rouge,
Ah, that surprises me. Okay.
arguably. First of all, there's a parade for everything there. So they are celebrating everything. To go to a crawfish boil at someone's house and you see like their entire family comes out and their appreciation of food and how food is integrated into every emotion in their lives. And just living is celebrated was
Yeah.
really it was so different than my upbringing, where special dishes came out at holidays, but this was every day. They appreciated where they lived and the seafood that was local, and everything had a story. And red beans and rice, and then pralines. I'm so sorry, God,
Yeah.
edit that, pralines. um so I'm gonna get in trouble. uh those sorts of things were just really cool to experience, but absolutely delicious as well. But I will say that my favorite dish to this day that I've ever experienced or been served, I was deep into Baja California, in this little town called Bahia de Tortugas. for lobster season. And I don't ask me how or where, because it made no sense. And there were like federales you had to pay off to get to where you're going. It was really weird. But there we went down to have like this fresh lobster. And on the last day, this woman, a local, she spoke no English and I spoke pretty much no Spanish, offered to make breakfast as we were getting ready to depart. And she made refried beans and homemade flour tortillas. And to this day, I can still taste that. It was delicious. It was the most delicious thing.
That's so amazing.
I am not a fancy pantsy kind of eater. Like I can appreciate it, but I crave just the most basic things that are done right.
Yeah.
And it probably was like 50% lard, to be fair,
Sure.
in both instances.
But if
it
that
was
makes it
so
good.
And then just her generosity on top of it. You know, when someone cares and they put that love into their food,
Yeah.
you feel it and you taste it. And
Uh-huh.
yeah, I remember the lobster that they cooked, but the different preparations of it, but most of it was cooked in a metal trash can lid that was upside down with like a butane burner underneath it. A little bit rusted, not entirely.
Yeah,
Just a
just
little.
a touch.
It just adds that metallic flavor a little bit more.
A little extra seasoning.
Still arguably like the best lobster I've ever had in my life. It was so
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. Lobster right out of the ocean is just so different than any other lobster. Lobster will change so fast. I've gone to Maine and had it right off the boat. They dropped it right in the water, and it's just like, whoa! I've never experienced lobster like this before.
Right?
It's really crazy when you realize the people that are landlocked, that don't get to experience fresh seafood, or people that don't know what fresh local produce is like. It changes, to your point, it changes flavor, it changes texture, the hydration level changes. There's all these different components to it. And I still think back, when I was a kid and you went to go get a tomato, you ate it when it was ripe, and that's the only time you ate it. And and I can still taste it to this day. It was, that's the way. And I just appreciate it so much.
Yeah. I just got back from northern Italy, and bolognese sauce. It's meat and tomatoes. The bolognese in Bologna blew my mind because the tomatoes were so different. The beef was raised so different. And then, it's basically a rule. They make this egg pasta, and there's strips, and they hand twist them. And that's the only pasta that goes with the bolognese. And it's just like, I was just like, whoa, something so simple just shocked me and blew my mind.
Those types of dishes, their simplicity, I think, is where they shine.
Yeah.
I'm curious too. Did you say bolognese before you went to Italy, or was it
Yes.
bolognese? Yeah.
No,
Okay, good.
bolognese. We're getting ourselves in trouble with a lot of word police today.
I love that though. You're right. It's so simple. We do a local made pizza for our kiddos, and they use, 00 flour from Italy, and talking about how that flour is digested differently because it's not full of junk like some of the things that you'll find in this country. And absolutely the appreciation of ripe and properly grown fruits and vegetables, but also livestock, how they're raised. It's just so different. And certainly the appreciation and the love is there. And sounds like an amazing trip.
We had a little fun.
Yeah.
Lots of butter, lots of beef, lots of polenta.
I bet. Like, you didn't bring anything back?
You didn't bring anything back. Can you believe it?
Nothing at all.
What a guy.
Well, what I would have wanted to bring back, I'm not allowed to, the porcinis, because porcini season had just come in. And it was weird. Everybody's had a hot summer, so I was really hoping that the white truffles would have been in while we were there. But the summer was too hot, so they haven't come up, or they had not come up yet at the time.
Well, Dusty, this has really been amazing.
My pleasure. I'm loving chatting. I don't get to talk chefy talk very often. So this has been fun.
So for us, like each one of us, we're all in different locations, right? So I'm in Denver, Robert's in Phoenix, and Ryan is in Kent, Washington. I mean, outside of us going out and talking to like, some of the customers that we work with, other chefs and things like that, we don't get to talk like this either typically until we all get together. We have our meetings or something. So yeah, it's definitely a pleasure and a joy to be able to just kind of let loose and be who we are, right?
Bond of food it's strong.
It's so interesting you bring that up because meeting non-industry people, I'm so friendly when like people, like I'm at a bar having a beer and someone's like, hi. And I'm like, hi, how are you? And I just go. And they're like, okay, I've just known you I'm like, what, you want to go grab lunch? You want to go talk food? You want to go do this? They're like, I just met you. And I'm like, you're right. I'm sorry. But I treat everybody like a kitchen atmosphere.
I've been accused of oversharing. They're like, whoa.
Yeah.
I'm like, what, do you not want to know my life story?
Yeah.
Because I'm very curious about yours.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
I got even juicier stuff than that. Let's go.
Yeah,
I know.
Exactly.
I like Luke and Ryan a lot. We have a company meeting coming up, but I'm not sitting in the hot tub drinking bourbon with them. I'll drink bourbon. I'll sit on.
You can sit on the
outside
side.
pool.
Yeah, you can be in the little lounge chair next to us.
So you're braver than me.
We'll just get you a full bodysuit, like a scuba gear.
Oh my!
I'm going to require photos of the three of you collectively at that hot tub. That sounds. I'm envisioning.
I'll be the
it,
one taking the picture in selfie mode from outside. Here's Luke and Ryan in the water, and they'll be splashing me like this and tormenting me. And I have a picture of Ryan dancing on the beach last year.
Oh yeah,
at a company meeting. He was running into the water and running out like a princess.
I don't recall this. I
That
think you're
sounds
lying.
about right.
Yeah, I think there was too much tequila involved in that one.
Well, thank you guys again.
Thank you so much.
This was a blast.
Yeah. I can't wait
likewise.
to get to DC.
Really good.
I will definitely be
real.
reaching out if I get anywhere close.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Please do anytime. Come on out. We'll show you. We'll have you cut some sweet potatoes, and then we'll take you to dinner.
Sweet. And your dinner's gonna be sweet potatoes.
Yes, 100%.
7-way sweet potato. Dusty was awesome. What a great person to have on the podcast today. What of random happening into events in her life,
right?
To where she became where she's at. Like when she was telling her story, you're like, wait, what?
Yeah, living all over the world, and
like I wish I had popcorn.
Right.
But that was really great, and what she's doing now is just so cool. Like saving the world with food, kind of out there, is just really, really awesome. I mean, I couldn't imagine the stress and how busy that place is, but that's phenomenal what she's doing.
Yeah, it's quite an interesting story of, going from a farm to fine dining all around the world, learning pastry, not even speaking French, and going to the Cordon Bleu.
Right.
And then coming all the way around to life skills and knife skills. That was I really dug that term, life skills and knife skills.
Yeah, I've known her for a while, and I probably only knew about 10% of what she talked about. Yeah, I mean, having that experience, it doesn't surprise me. And also knowing Dusty, I'm not surprised that she ended up at DC Central. She wants to make a difference, like kind of constantly. And I think that's probably part of the reason why, she did bounce as much as she did. But yeah, it was super cool to learn just the journey that she's been on and where she's at now. And really all the insights about DC Central. Like it's fascinating to me, just like how an organization like that really can do all the things that it does. It just blows my mind.
Yeah, 16,000 meals a day is no small feat.
No.
That's a lot.
It's a lot.
And the global impact of that too. I think, they're influencing, many programs across the globe, right? Like they're basically, setting out and creating the blueprint on how to do this successfully in the right way. So yeah, super impressed, and I want to continue to learn more about how they do what they do.
Couldn't agree more.
All right, Ryan, take us out, buddy.
Am I spinning today?
I think you have to. I mean,
Do you feel like spinning?
maybe you should try and recreate the princess dance on the beach.
I can try. My family watches this though, and they're gonna be like, ugh.
I'm going to just leave that one alone.
Here we go.
Culinary 360 podcast.
Yeah, that was it.
Is that what you wanted?
That's exactly it. You nailed it.